Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for joining me again on what is actually, believe it or not, my 100th video for this channel. Can't believe I've got to 100 videos, but hopefully if you look back at the first few, you might think that the last few are better than those. Don't know, hope so anyway. Thanks to those of you who've stuck with me all the way through from the beginning, and really appreciate your support. It's made it worthwhile going on. There have been a number of times when I thought I'm just going to stop doing this because there's no point, but thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who's joined me along the way. It is really great to have the company and to read your comments every week. It's really, really nice. So what am I going to do to celebrate this milestone of 100 videos? Well, pretty much the same as I always do really, which is take a camera out and philosophize a bit about photography in general. So the camera that I have got to test today is this new to me Canon A1, I think that's the name of it. It was a gift to me from Lucy as an anniversary present when we were in Sheffield. Actually, that was our anniversary. What a brilliant way to spend it, taking pictures, going to see the dog racing. It was fantastic. If you haven't watched that video, please do watch it. It's a good one. But yeah, I'm going to be testing this out because it is a waterproof camera. Lucy watched the winterizing video I did and said, you haven't actually got a waterproof compact camera. This appeared and I'm really looking forward to testing it. And when I go out, I'm going to use that opportunity to talk a little bit about the worst things we can do as photographers. And I hope that's not too clickbaity. It's not intended to be, and it's not intended to be like, you'll go to hell if you do these things. It's just the things that really irritate me about myself, because I've been guilty of a lot of these, and when I see other people doing it. So I'm sure you will agree with at least one or two of the things that I say, and I'm sure there are things that you'll think I should have included which I didn't. So please drop those in the comments afterwards and let me know, and I will try and chat to you about it because that's what I enjoy doing. But without further ado, I will put on the cap because it is really, really miserable weather out there. Perfect for the A1, hopefully. I will get everything loaded up and I will see you on the streets of Stockport very soon. Right, let's crack on. Okay, so here we are in Stockport town centre and it's just starting to rain, and I'm guessing the one thing that isn't waterproof about this camera is loading it. So let's get it loaded before the inside gets wet and it ruins all our shots. Right, got Colorplus with me. I'd usually use Ultramax this time of year, couldn't find any, so we're on this. DX coded, and I think this camera will understand the DX code. There's a little bit of moisture there, but I think we'll be okay. There we go. And I think it's all water sealed around the edges. We should get a nice clunk. Maybe we need to turn it on. It's just got a little dial here for with flash, without flash, full auto. And there's like a macro mode which shows a fish, which I think is especially for underwater. I don't think we'll be going underwater today, but you never know, do you? Right, so I will crack on and get some shots, but before I start, I was going to talk about the worst things we can do as photographers. And I think number one is just stealing somebody else's shot. So as I walked away from setting the camera up, I spotted this wig in a hedge, and I just thought, that is an unusual sight. That is worth a photograph. And so I took it, and it's my shot. But if I'd walked around the corner and spotted another photographer taking that picture and thought, oh, that looks like a good picture, I'll get a copy too, and I jumped into his footsteps, that would be just cheating. In my view, you're not producing anything new of your own. And not only that, but you're making yourself look bad in front of other photographers. Some might be flattered and think, oh yeah, they thought that was a good shot and they took it themselves. But 9 times out of 10, they'll just be annoyed. They did the thinking and you will get the credit for the same photograph. Worst thing a photographer can do, number one. Let's move on. I'll tell you one thing that doesn't appear to be waterproof about this camera, and that's the case. It's all sort of coming apart and the black bits are sticking to my hands, and yeah, it's not nice. But yeah, the camera seems fine. The viewfinder is incredibly nice and wide. You get a great bright view and the frame lines seem clear. The button, it's easy to operate but not easy to knock. Hopefully the photographs do it justice. One of the worst things a photographer can do is to forget about their own safety and safety of others, but predominantly their own safety. And this is something that used to be like thought of about war photographers, but actually in the modern day when people are walking around with cameras all the time, it kind of comes into effect everywhere. People walking across the roads, people not looking at who's around them and what kind of environment they're in. It's so easy to get lost in the viewfinder, to not look around at what's going on around you and just to be peering through here. Recipe for disaster. Time to test the macro mode of this, see if we can get some Halloween pumpkins in close focus. The flash went off even though I didn't want it to. It looks like the focusing missed as well, but it was quite a tricky subject, and maybe this is a mode that's designed for underwater. There seems to be pretty good for close focusing even without using that macro mode. This picture, which again could fit in with my things being closed theme, took this from quite close up. And after doing that, I tried to get a few more people shots because this does seem to be a good street photography camera. One of the bugbears I had with the last point and shoot, it was actually a zoom. It was the Minolta Pico zoom. It was really noisy when it wound on and when it took a picture. But this, it's really, really quiet. So another one of the things, which is the worst thing that a photographer can do, is to stop experimenting. You should never get too comfortable with what you're doing and just think, yeah, this is my look, this is my style, this is what I do. I think you've always got to keep experimenting. That is really important. Okay, worst thing we can do as a photographer, not enjoy ourselves. We've got to go out and we've got to enjoy what we're doing, because if we don't, we're not going to get good shots. We have got to enjoy ourselves. And the other thing that is the worst thing a photographer can do is spoil things for everybody else. I hate it when a photographer, and I'm sure I've been guilty of this in the past, makes the event about themselves, care about the subject. If you're going to an event like a wedding, it's not about you, it's about the people getting married, the people enjoying the day, and you are there to show that, not to make it about you taking pictures of it. Right, let's go and find another location, take a few shots. The rain's coming down quite heavily now, so it's a good opportunity to test this camera out and see what we can get. Let's crack on. One thing I like about this camera is the position you can have it on with this lanyard, and you've got your finger right over the trigger button. So you're ready to shoot at a moment's notice. Having the camera just ready to fire meant that I got this little picture, and I was surprised at how sharp it was as well. So another one of the worst things you can do as a photographer is not printing your work. It's almost as bad as not backing it up, because then you lose it. But I really think you've got to print it. It's not real until it's been printed. So kind of going along with the thing that I was talking about, not printing your work, something that a lot of people think is an awful thing for photographers to do is to not share their work. But I don't agree with that. I don't think you have to share your work to be a photographer. Obviously I like to share mine, but it's not an intrinsic part of the process. I know of many people who just take photographs because they want to keep those memories. I mean, look at the greats you've even got. I mean, no, I think Vivian Meyer's probably a bit of an outlier, but you know, those photographs weren't designed to be seen, at least not in her lifetime. So you can take photographs and not share them. I think sometimes if you're taking photographs at an event where people are kind of expecting you to share them, and that's part of the little unspoken contract, it would be a bit mean not to share them. But I understand sometimes people just feel that they're not very proud of what they've done, it's not as good as they thought they were intending to do, and they don't want to be embarrassed by showing those photos, and that's fair enough. But yeah, I don't think a terrible thing for photographers to do is to not share their work. I would say that one of the worst things you can do as a photographer is slag off other photographers. It's fine to give constructive criticism, that's what we all need, but being a nice human being is so important. You may be the best photographer in the world, you're probably not, you might be, but even if you are, you shouldn't need to prove it by making other people feel small. Another of the things I really hate photographers doing is getting in people's faces. You know, the photographers that are there in there like that, even if it's friends or family, there's a time and a place, and I know sometimes you can get some great shots that way, but it's just, in my view, a little bit, if they are people that you know don't mind that, that's fine. I've got a friend who's always getting up close and taking pictures really in my face because he knows that I don't mind that. But there are other people who would find that really uncomfortable. So, you know, just you've got to bear that in mind. Right, so I think the rain's easing off a little bit. Now, because it's waterproof, I can put this down on the ground and take a picture of the rubbish there without worrying about it getting filthy and wet and damaged. Now, another thing I hate is when photographers forget that what the public are interested in is not the same as the public interest. If you're a news photographer, it might be genuinely right for you to take a picture of somebody doing something that they might not want seen. But as a documentary photographer, an art photographer, street photographer, I don't think the same thing applies. So another of my bugbears is that photographers are gear snobs. Again, I can't help it. Sometimes I can be like that as well. But I think it's really important not to have it all about the gear. Photography can be quite an expensive hobby, and not everybody has huge amounts of money to throw at it. That doesn't stop you being a great photographer. It's all about you, the photographer, not about the camera. Okay, so there's many bugbears that I have, terrible things we do as photographers. But what about the camera? Is this a terrible camera? No, it's a really good camera, I think. Obviously the proof is in the photos, but usability wise, I can't fault it. Really nice, rugged construction, chunky buttons, but not clunky buttons, which is an important distinction, I think. The dials and everything, they're easy to use with gloves on. I'm not wearing gloves, but obviously this is designed for underwater use. So it's really nice that you can feel it. It's very tactile. The viewfinder is nice and bright and clear. There are really good frame lines to show your shot. There's a little light to show you when it's ready, and it's all good. You've got your little film counter here, so you know what film number you're on. And yeah, I really like it. You can see through the window there what film you've got in there if you haven't used the camera for a while. It's not going to pop open. It's got a really heavy catch there that you're not going to knock and flip it open, and it is a really good seal. It feels like it's waterproof, and it should therefore be light proof as well. I really like this camera. It's got a self timer on it. I've not made use of it yet, but it's nice to have. I like this lanyard because it just means I can carry it in a really easy way. So yeah, I'm liking this a lot. Thanks, Lucy. Another one of the worst things that photographers can do is to stop taking photographs. And I know that comes into things that I've said before in other videos about the importance of keeping going. But it is really important. It's so easy to get lazy or dispirited. Always have a camera with you. Always keep taking photographs, even if it's just a snap on your smartphone, which is something I'm going to come to very shortly. Now, I think one of the worst things photographers can do is to forget that a picture on a smartphone has as much merit as a picture on a Leica, because so long as you're not using the AI to create it or turning on all the features of your camera to wipe out the reality of what was there, the smartphone is an amazing tool. I quite often only have my smartphone with me if I haven't got any film in my camera. And I wouldn't not take a picture because it's going to be on a smartphone. Smartphones, the quality is good, and it's not always about the quality, it's about capturing the moment. So, photographers, remember, smartphone is a camera. So I've come up with quite a few the worst things a photographer can do, but the very worst is to neglect the rest of their life for the expense of their photography. And with that in mind, I'm now going to crack on with the rest of my day. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this little exploration of Stockport and exploration of our compass as photographers. If you did, please do, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, share. It really does help me out. I'll be back soon with episode 101, maybe things we shouldn't do again. I will have a think and I'll be back very soon. But until we meet again, take care of yourselves, enjoy what you're shooting. Bye for now.